Do you want to know how to get teens to do chores? Well, you're not alone. That can be a struggle. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. I have raised many teenagers, 4 of my own and many that belong to other people while I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. And in this video, we're talking about how I taught them all to do chores. Why do teens need to know how to do chores anyway? Well, we're going to be talking about that and why there's a little bit of resistance to doing chores, especially during the teenage years. What you can do to establish a culture where doing chores is normal and not a fight. Parents of teenagers contact me all the time, especially on my weekly Teaching Self-Government support group or TSG support group, and they ask me questions about how to get their teens to do certain things. Most of them relate to lifting a finger around the house, doing a daily or weekly chore, following through with something they were told to do, accepting a consequence that involves doing a chore of some sort. How do we get them to do those things, they wonder, and then we talk about it. So I'm going to share with you today some of those things that you can do. But before we do that, let's talk about why work is so important. If you've already subscribed to this channel, you know I have multiple videos on work and why it's important to teach children and teens how to do work. I'm not going to go into all those details here, but I will say one thing, and that is that work is the antidote for a sick character, and it is vital training from parents. If children do not learn how to work, how to enjoy work, and to see a job well done, then they end up becoming disabled adults, meaning that they have this inability to function as a full adult. They will expect other people to do their work for them. This will make them not as productive and less happy. They will have lots of excuses. They will disappoint themselves and others on a regular basis. So learning how to work is a vital skill for confidence and success for all people, and it is up to parents primarily to teach their children how to do work. When I was young, my parents had us do daily chores, and then we also had weekly chore time where we would do things together. But I do remember when I was a teen that I did less chores, and part of that was because I was so busy. So we definitely have to consider the teenage schedule. Now I know that people on this channel probably have their children engaged in a variety of different things. Sometimes there's extracurricular activities, sometimes public school, private school, charter schools, sometimes they homeschool. All of those environments can present differences for the family, but if there's one thing I know, that no matter how your teenager is conducting their education, the older they get, the busier they get. They start taking on teenage jobs. They want to earn money so they can start to learn and progress. They start to do more social things with their friends, testing out their social wings, as it were. They often are driving cars, going different places, and then are all of the other talents and hobbies and things that they work on, which help them become well-rounded people moving into adulthood. So there are a lot of things that these teens are taking on, and when we say chores and they look at their priorities, they put it to the bottom of the list. Chores just don't seem super important. Now there's one thing that I learned. I homeschooled all of my 4 children, my foster children, all of my treatment children, they all went to the public school. But for my 4 children that were homeschooled, I realized something, and that was that there is a point when if I'm giving chores at the wrong time, I'm actually ruining their education. So you have to be careful. I had to decide, okay, I can't interrupt them reading that book, which is part of their education, just to get them to do a chore for me because it's on my timeline and it's when I want it done. Instead, I needed to be a little bit more flexible about when they would get their chores done. So that flexibility included having deadlines for chores, but giving them maybe a little bit more time than they would normally have. So by the time my children were in their teen years, usually they had stewardships. So when they were younger, I would give them chores each day. They would have certain chores and they needed to have those things done before they started school or went to school. But then when they got older, they had stewardships, and that meant that they were in charge of a certain part of the house. So maybe for 1 week, a child would be on kitchen, and for another week, a child would be on bathroom and living room or hallway or something like that. And so they were in charge of checking those daily. But there was one time throughout the week where they had to be completely cleaned. Everything on the list for that stewardship had to be done and checked off. So that was really helpful. And we usually picked a time on a Saturday, maybe in a morning or mid-morning, so we could have a little bit of a sleep in, and they would have that check-off time happen then. And that way, if they hadn't got to it too much throughout the week, by that Saturday, they could really do a good job and get that checked off. I did not attach money to chores. I did not want my children to think that they deserve some sort of a financial reward for doing something to serve their own family and themselves. It is okay to be part of a family and have to do service. So I didn't do that. If you want to know how I taught my children about managing their money or earning money, I have multiple videos about that on this channel, and you can check those things out as well. What did I do then to help them learn that chores were okay? Number one, I determined what type of schedule would be good for them. Number two, I taught them how to follow instructions. So when my children were little, I taught them what I call the 4 basic skills. The 4 basic skills of self-government are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. If a person learns those 4 basic skills, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. Now, following instructions is the crucial one for being able to do chores. And you don't have to teach it when they're young. If your child is already a teen, and that's why you're watching this video, you can still teach these 4 basic skills at any age, and I mean any age, because they are adult skills. So when I had foster children come to my home, sometimes they came to my home at age 17, and I would just be with them for a few months before we transitioned them into adulthood and living on their own at age 18. And we still taught them first thing, the 4 basic skills. Each one of the 4 basic skills has a skill set attached to it. Let's talk about the skill set for following instructions. To follow instructions, you look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay, or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. If a person takes out the trash but they roll their eyes, they aren't following instructions. They have to decide that it's okay that they took out the trash, and it's okay that they followed an instruction from somebody else. Now, what this does mean that they have to do is they have to acknowledge their role in the family. I have a whole book all about roles called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. This book is a great place to start with teens. You can either read it together as a read aloud and then discuss, or you can read it and have the conversations that the parents in this story have with their teens, with your teens too, so that they can understand who you are to each other in the family, why you need to do this training, and why they need to do the learning. Super important. If they understand their identity in the family and they know the skills for success, they are going to be much more successful. Now, this brings me to another thing. When we are teaching our children to do chores, we have to be consistent in the teaching. So often, the main reason they don't get their chores done is because the parents aren't consistent. They don't check them off, they don't follow through, they just nag and nag and nag and hope the child will get to it, but they don't. Your teenager should not be trained to be nagged by you. Instead, what you do is you give the instruction, have them do it right then, and then check back. And if they don't, you correct them. Now, there is a way to do a correction that will help them learn cause and effect and help them learn some self-evaluation so that they can learn self-government. Part of the correction is a negative consequence. Now, the negative consequence that we use 99% of the time in our family is an extra chore. So they get the opportunity to now do whatever it was they were supposed to do originally and the extra chore that they earned. When they learn to accept consequences, which are an extra chore, this actually improves their confidence This teaches them that chores aren't such a bad thing. We can get them done really quickly. Also, sometimes chores are really small when I give them as extra chores because they don't have to be huge. They just have to teach cause and effect. And so this makes it nice and easy for them to do simple little extra chores and get used to the idea of following through with something they set their mind to, or something that they are instructed to do, which is going to help them one day when they have a job and they have to live with other people and work with them as well. So when a person gets the opportunity to work by themselves, possibly have stewardships, and earn extra chores when they are corrected, that gives them a lot of practice at doing chores. But I don't just stop there. In our family, we've created a culture of work, and so we do family work together as a family each day. So in the summer times, family work lasts a lot longer. In the winter time, family work time might be shorter, like a half an hour. But in the summer, every day for maybe 2 hours out in the yard doing yard work. If your child is used to working that much, do you think that later when they just have one extra task to do at their office, or when they're running their own family and they're inconvenienced by something that they have to fix, that they're going to complain? Probably not that much, especially if you don't complain about work. So this leads me to probably my number one thing that you want to do if you're wanting your teen to do chores and enjoy work, and that is, don't complain about your own work. Don't look at it as a bad thing. They're going to be taking on your attitude in chores, just like you take on the attitude that your parents had or the people that surrounded you had about work as well. Now, I have a special help for you. I'm so excited about this. I have a new app. It's called the Teaching Self-Government app. And this app will help you as you are assigning chores. It has a whole list of chores in the job jar. When your child earns an extra chore, then you can just click on that child. It will pull up some jobs you can pick based upon their age. You can select one of those jobs, and then it even has a timer to tell you when it's supposed to be done. But hopefully, if they know how to follow instructions, they remember to check back. You can also add some of their daily chores in there as well. This app is going to have a big impact on your home. It should hopefully help make things easier for you. So go to your app store in your phone, find the Teaching Self-Government app, and it is free. Get it today.